They say when the skies turn black without warning and the trees hold their breath, the jungle remembers. It remembers blood. It remembers war. It remembers the drums. And on that cursed day, the jungle did not whisper, it screamed. Deep within the uncharted heart of Equatoria, untouched by map or mercy, there lived a forgotten people, the Mbik, jungle lords. They had no cities, no steel, no written word, but they had the drums of Ebon rain. Ancient, cursed, and alive, those drums could summon more than war. They could summon what lies beneath the jungle's skin. It began during the season of the dying winds. Prince Kiwinjie, barely 20 reigns old, stood barefoot on the sacred cliffs of Udonga, watching the horizon split open with thunder. His skin bore the painted stripes of his fallen father, King Alagon the Flame-Bearer, slain 2 moons ago by the invaders from the sea. The jungle had already claimed revenge. 20 foreign bodies were found impaled on tree branches, eyes eaten by crows. But more were coming. Ships, guns, greed. And now, the rain has come early. Not just any rain. Ebon rain. Black as oil. Bitter as ash. A curse from the old gods. It was only supposed to fall once in a generation when the drums called it. But this time, it came unbidden. The jungle was warning them. In the sacred cave beneath the roots of the flame tree, the blind priestess Nyawa chanted alone. Her voice echoed with the dead. Her arms were painted with blood and charcoal. She had seen it in the smoke. The end will come with rhythm, and the rhythm will not be ours. She summoned Kiwinjie that night. The spirits cry, my prince, she whispered. The drums are waking, but not by our hands. Kiwinjie frowned. Then whose? Nyawa's milky white eyes turned upward. The jungle itself. Far across the Red River, white tints bloomed like disease. The outsiders had arrived in full, led by Colonel Darnell Vanderholt, commander of the Black Ivory Regiment. He had once raised an entire coast in the east for sugarcane. Now, he sought what the Mbik called forbidden, the golden veins hidden under the earth. He did not believe in gods. He believed in maps. He believed in bullets. And yet, every night, he could hear them, drums in the distance. Slow, deep, drenched in sorrow, his men began to desert. One was found flayed, hanging by vines. Another screamed about shadows in the trees before stabbing himself with a bayonet. But Vanderholt did not turn back. He said, even myths bleed when shot. Back in Beakland, the village elders gathered beneath the rainstone arch. There was panic. The children were coughing black. The leaves had turned red overnight. The jungle is dying, one elder said. No, whispered Kiwinjie. The jungle is preparing. He stood before the sacred drum, the skin of which was made from the hide of the first trader of Mbik. Nyawa handed him the bone-carved mallet. Drum it, she said. Let the gods know we still fight. And so he did. The jungle roared. The earth shook. The birds vanished. And miles away, in the invaders' camp, all their fire went out in an instant. As the final echoes of the drums faded into the dark, soaked jungle, silence fell, thick and unnatural. No insects, no frogs, not even wind, just stillness. But beneath the surface, something ancient had awakened. The Mbik called it Moktaru, the sleeper in the roots, a spirit not of flesh, but of wrath, born from the first blood ever spilled in that jungle, the blood of betrayal. And now, with the drums reawakened, its hunger stirred. In the village, Nyawa's body shook violently. Her eyes rolled white as she spoke in tongues no longer spoken by men. 7 nights of rain, 700 deaths, and the final night, drums will bleed. Kiwinjie held her, but even he was afraid. He had seen warriors die, seen beasts ripped apart by gunfire, but he had never seen a priestess cry blood. The jungle wasn't just calling for a fight. It was calling for a sacrifice. Meanwhile, in the enemy camp, fear had become a plague. Colonel Vanderholt kept up the front of command, but even he knew the jungle was turning against them. Their drums have no logic. Their paths move like they're alive. We lose 5 men and find none. We shoot trees that bleed. The whispers among his ranks spoke of a curse, of ghost warriors, and eyes in the water. But Vanderholt dismissed it all. He loaded his revolver and ordered a full march forward. They want us to fear the rain. We'll answer with fire. That same night, under the canopy of 1,000 black leaves, the Mbik gathered for the ritual of last flame. Old warriors smeared ash on their faces. Children carved death symbols into wood. And Kiwinjie, now no longer a prince but a king, donned the crown of teeth, worn only in times of total war. His speech was not long. It did not need to be. They bring steel. We have the jungle. Let them burn in the rain. And then the drums began again. Not from one place, but from everywhere. As if the forest itself had learned to beat. Vanderholt's men marched through narrow ridges, cutting trees, burning nests, and stomping sacred shrines. And the jungle bled. Their boots sank into red mud that hissed. Their torches flickered in windless air. Their bullets jammed without reason. One night, they found an entire patrol hanging upside down from vines, with no wounds, no blood, just wide, terrified eyes. By the 6th night, the rain had not stopped. It didn't fall, it crawled. Ebon rain, black and thick, sticking to skin, staining it forever. Some men began to choke on it. Others woke up screaming, eyes filled with centipedes. And yet Vanderholt pushed on. In the Mbik camp, Kiwinjie met Nyawa one last time. She was dying. The drums have done all they can, she whispered. Kiwinjie asked, then what remains? Nyawa smiled faintly, blood dripping from her ears. You, and the roots. She handed him a dagger made from horn and bone. He didn't ask questions. He knew what had to be done. That night, Kiwinjie walked alone into the deepest part of the jungle, a place no Mbik had entered in generations. There, he cut his own hand and pressed it into the ground. The roots drank his blood. The earth moaned. The trees wept. And the jungle awoke completely. The earth did not shake like thunder. It pulsed like a heart. Where Kiwinjie's blood touched its roots, the forest bloomed with war. Vines thickened and twisted like serpents. Trees grew thorns where there had been bark. And the fog, once light, became a living thing. The jungle was no longer a battlefield. It was a weapon. The next morning, Vanderholt's column of soldiers advanced, cutting deeper into the jungle's throat. His scouts had stopped returning. His food spoiled faster. His men coughed black water. But he wouldn't stop. He thought this was fear. Superstition. He didn't realize the jungle was alive, and now it had chosen sides. The first real attack came without sound. Not arrows. Not spears. The jungle itself attacked. A soldier stepped on what looked like a vine. It coiled around his leg and dragged him into the undergrowth. Another turned and saw something move inside a tree, not behind it, inside it. Screams echoed. Gunshots flared. But nothing helped. Some men fired blindly. Others dropped their weapons and ran, only to sink waist deep in sudden mud that closed over their heads. And above it all, echoing like a god's heartbeat, were the drums. Vanderholt fought back with fire. He ordered torches lit, napalm barrels smashed open, and the jungle burned. But even flames betrayed him. The smoke turned black, choking his own men. The fire jumped onto tents, ammo piles, and spread backwards, toward them. That night, 2/3 of his battalion died, not to blade or bullet, but to trees, insects, rain, and madness. And Vanderholt? He still didn't stop. He was bleeding from the shoulder, but his pride bled worse. Bring me their king, he roared. I'll shoot him myself and end their forest fairy tale. In Mbik, the elders lit the final fire, the bone pyre, only ever used once before in their people's history. Their chants rose into the sky. Kiwinjie, standing shirtless and painted with ash, wore armor made of jungle beast hide, bone, and bronze. No helmet, no shield, just the dagger and a spear carved with his father's name. He spoke not to warriors, but to the forest itself. This is your war now. We are your children. Let no root rest. Let no leaf hide. And the forest answered, loud, savage, merciless. The final battle began at dusk, just as the ebon rain reached its peak. It didn't fall. It poured like liquid coal, blinding both sides. Vanderholt's final 120 men marched into the choking dark, torches lit, guns cocked. But what waited for them was not a tribal ambush. It was an extinction event. From the trees came beasts no outsider had ever named. Some had tusks, some had scales, others had faces like men, but eyes like death. From the mud rose Mbeek warriors, silent, soaked, eyes painted red. The drums beat like war gods. Bum, 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 the rhythm of vengeance. Gunfire burst. Spears flew. Rain sizzled on skin. Vanderholt fought like a madman, his revolver firing non-stop, his blade cutting vines and throats alike. But the jungle never tired. It didn't bleed. It didn't run. It didn't end. In the heart of the storm, Kiwinjie found him. Face to face, the last king of the forest and the last invader standing. Their duel wasn't fair. Kiwinjie had no bullets. But Vanderholt had no soul left. The fight was brutal, fists, blades, blood, mud. The colonel stabbed Kiwinjie in the thigh. Kiwinjie drove his horned dagger through the man's chest, twisted, and watched the light leave his enemy's eyes. No words, only thunder and drums. Vanderholt's body sank into the mud, swallowed like all the others. And with that, the rain stopped. The silence that followed was sacred. Kiwinjie collapsed, not from weakness, but from peace. The war was over. When the morning came, the jungle glistened, wet, wounded, but alive. There were no bodies, no blood, no footprints. The forest had taken everything back into itself, as if nothing had ever happened. Only the drums remained, still, silent, watching. High atop Yadonga, the ancient drum sat soaked with the last drops of Ebon rain. Its skin blackened. Its voice is resting. For the first time in centuries, the drums would not sound again. Not because they were forgotten, but because they had been answered. Kiwinjie lay for days, unconscious beside the root shrine. The jungle did not kill him. It healed him. When he awoke, the birds had returned. The trees had grown new leaves, and the sky was blue again. Nyawa was gone. Her hut was nothing but ash. But her words lingered like the scent of sacred fire. You are not king of the Mbeek anymore. You are king of the jungle itself. Kiwinjie rose not as a ruler, but as a keeper, a guardian of balance between man and the living earth. Years passed. No outsider dared return. Maps marked that region as cursed. Entire expeditions vanished without trace. The jungle whispered, "Go back." And they listened. The Mbeek did not rebuild temples. They did not need stone. Their shrine was the forest itself. They lived quietly, hidden, whole. But sometimes, on certain nights when the moon vanishes behind the clouds, when the wind turns bitter and the mist thickens near the river's edge, some say you can still hear it. A rhythm, a heartbeat. Bum, bum, bum. The drums of Ebon rain, calling not for war, but for remembrance. Legacy. The tale of Kiwinjie became legend, passed through chants, carved into bark, remembered in bone. The Mbeek never sought revenge again. They didn't need to. They had proven what mattered, that even the most forgotten people, bound to nature and spirit, could hold the line against empires. And the final line in the oldest Mbeek chant says, "When kings forget the jungle will remind them." Years had passed since the Ebon Rain War. Foreign maps labeled the Mbeek jungle as Terra Mortalis, land of the dead. No empire dared touch it. No traders crossed its rivers. No satellites captured its heart. But the jungle wasn't silent. It was watching. And Kiwinjie, now a legend among his people, had become more than a king. He was a spirit of balance, both feared and followed, moving through the forest like mist. His hair had grayed. His voice deepened. But his eyes, sharp as obsidian, still saw what others missed. He spoke rarely now, only when the trees asked. One morning, the river Rongo shifted course. That had never happened in 1,000 years. Kiwinjie stood barefoot at the river's edge, touching the wet stones. He smelled oil. Far away, machines were waking. Steel teeth. Engines. Men. Outsiders were coming again. But this time, not soldiers. Explorers. Biologists. Treasure hunters. New flags. New faces. Same hunger. They didn't carry swords. They carried sensors. They didn't shout orders. They mapped. And the jungle, older than any kingdom, began to stir again. In the heart of Mbeek, the new generation had grown fearless. They'd never seen war. They'd never bled to save a tree. Some even questioned the drums. Are they just stories? Why should we fear rivers when we have boats? Why not welcome the world? Kiwinjie sat by the sacred flame and listened, not to them, but to the roots beneath him. They were whispering faster now. He turned to the oldest warrior still living, Batu, the last survivor of the first invasion. Bata limped, but his hands still carved bone as he said, "The jungle gave us peace. But peace makes warriors forget what made them warriors." Kiwinjie nodded. The beak had grown soft, but the jungle had not. Meanwhile, a man named Dr. Felix Brunner, leader of the Global Colonial Recovery Foundation, landed via helicopter on the far edge of Mbeke land. His mission, recover ancient minerals, document vanishing, tribes secure a foothold for commercial expansion. He did not believe in drums. He believed in data. Brunner's team included 40 men and women, geologists, drone pilots, and armed security consultants. Their tech was unmatched. Infrared drones, sonic scanners, all-terrain mechs. But on their third night, something happened. All sound cut off. The jungle, which should have been full of buzzing, croaking, and howling, was utterly still. And then the drums began again. Not recorded, not imagined. Real, deafening, ancient. Bum, bum, bum. Panic spread through the camp. One drone crashed into a tree, no malfunction detected. A geologist fled into the woods, found 3 days later, eyes wide, lips sewn shut with vine. Dr. Brunner still didn't turn back. It's just psychological. Tribal intimidation tactics. But Kiwinjie knew this wasn't intimidation. This was the final warning. That night, he climbed the Udonga Tower once again. Not as king, not as spirit, but as a drummer. He placed his hand on the skin of the ancient drum, and for the first time in years, he played. But not for war, for judgment. Kiwinjie's hand struck the sacred drum with a rhythm older than the empire. And with every beat, the jungle breathed. Bum, bum, bum. The air thickened. The trees leaned inward. Even the stars seemed to dim. This was no call to arms. This was a summons for the forest's deepest truths to rise. Far across the jungle, in the glowing tints of Dr. Brunner's camp, lights burst and died. Hard drives smoked, steel bent, and every machine, from drones to wrist scanners, showed one word, leave. And then came the rain. Not water, not oil, but a black mist that burned the skin like cold fire. A soldier fired into the trees. The jungle answered, not with men, but with creatures born of root and myth. From the earth rose Mbeke guardians, masked in bark, armored in bone and shadow, eyes glowing, silent. They moved without sound, faster than bullets, striking only those who aimed weapons. They did not kill scientists. They killed greed. A man trying to bottle jungle air, choked by vines. A woman tagging trees with ownership codes, swallowed into the roots. But those who sat still, those who apologized, were left untouched. The jungle didn't seek blood. It sought balance. Kiwinjie watched it unfold from the flame tree grove, the sacred eye of the forest. His eyes were no longer mortal. He had become the voice of the green. And now, the jungle spoke through him. This is your final warning, he whispered into the wind. Remember the drums, or disappear beneath them. Dr. Brunner finally broke. He ordered a full retreat. Helicopters lifted what few survivors remained, eyes wide with terror, hearts pounding with rhythm they didn't understand. As the last chopper vanished beyond the mountains, the jungle sighed, long and deep. The Ebon rain stopped, and Kiwinjie sat once more beside the great drum and never played it again. Years later, a child of Mbeke sat beneath the sacred tree, drawing pictures in the dirt. He asked his grandmother, "Is the story of the jungle war true?" She smiled. "It's not a story. It's a warning. The jungle doesn't forget. The drums still wait." The boy listened to the wind, and for a moment, he thought he heard it. Bum, bum, bum. He looked up. The trees were smiling. Legacy, final lines. Kiwinjie was never buried. His body became a root in the oldest tree of the jungle. The sacred drum still stands, untouched, silent, but alive. No empire ever returned, because what lives there is not a myth. It's a memory. When the last map fades, the jungle will remain, and its heartbeat will be a drum.